Welcome back, everybody. This time I will be doing a review for Onimusha Warlords for the Nintendo Switch. Now, when I say Onimusha Warlords, this is the remaster that is just recently come out. So originally this game came out on the PlayStation 2. It wasn't, I don't believe it was a launch title, but it was very close to the the early days of the PS2, and developed by Capcom. Fantastic game. It's sort of in between, I would say, Devil May Cry and Resident Evil. Like, it still had the tank controls, but it had more freedom as you're using swords as opposed to just standing there and shooting with a gun. But yeah, fantastic game back in the day. Brutally hard, very much in the vein that Ninja Gaiden took, where it really heavily relied on you being able to defend and know when to attack, as opposed to just sort of mashing the buttons and going for gold. So yeah, very, very tough game. So it was released later on the Xbox as Genma Onimusha or something like that. And I can't remember the differences or the changes. However, it looked a little a little bit better. But anyway, so on the Switch, I believe on the portable mode, we're running at 720 and I think 1080 on the dock. So let's start off concept. Basically, the princess has been taken by monsters, and the monsters have invaded Japan, and basically you need to stop them and save her, and, you know, typical sort of samurai meets fantasy story. It's entertaining. The voice acting back then wasn't that great, and they haven't, redone the voices. These are the original ones, so it is pretty cheesy and lame, but it's kind of cool. Like, it's badass. It's a cool idea having samurais fighting monsters, so I dig it. So onto the actual graphics. So the visuals have been up-resed because I can't even remember what the PS2 was running at, if at all running at 480i or whatever, maybe even less than that. Actually less than that, because it wasn't high definition at all. So now you've got it running on the Switch in 720, as I said, in handheld mode, which actually looks really good. So the character models have been smoothed out. They look crisp, they look fresh, but this game used pre-rendered backgrounds. Now, a lot of the time, those don't hold up so well because CRT monitors used to display those really amazingly. Like, you were just blown away every time you saw a good pre-rendered background. However, now the characters look super crisp on this sort of washed-out background. It's not as noticeable, though, when you're playing on the handheld because it's such a small screen. Those are all smoothed out, and it actually looks really, really nice. However, when you're playing it docked, you can really see those background textures are really blurry, whereas the characters are a lot more crisp and vibrant. So it kind of looks a bit odd and dated when you're playing it on the TV, especially on a big 4K display. So I actually preferred to play it on the handheld. There is some weird shadows. I don't remember them being on the original release, but the shadows that are in the game just look weird and just like they don't belong there. You'll see what I mean when you play the game. They just sort of bounce awkwardly off characters' faces, and it's just very, very weird and unnatural. Also, the main character's eyes are just as psychotic as I remember them. And you will see that if you ever look up some footage of that, or hopefully you'll see a clip on this review that I'm posting. So yeah, graphics, they've been up-res. They look nicer, they look crisper. I do love all the environments and backgrounds and detail to the enemies and the characters. So visually it is good, but it's not drastically different from the PS2. It's basically like as if you were playing this on an old CRT back in the day, with no real changes, to be honest. It does run perfectly smooth. I didn't have any hiccups or anything like that. So onto the gameplay. It's not real. It's like half tank controls. Like, you still kind of feel restricted in your movement like you did when you were playing Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 on the PS1. But you are using the analog stick, obviously, so you do have more of a range of motion, but it still feels very stiff. But I don't think that really hinders the game because it's easy to sort of get used to the controls. And using your sword and your different swords that you level up and have magic attacks and all that sort of stuff. Every time you push the button, like, it's very responsive. And it's very fluid and fast, and I really appreciate that. It's got very tight gameplay mechanics, and parrying and blocking and all that stuff and dodging. It all works really well. Dodging can be a bit difficult, as I said, with these sort of stiff motions, especially when there's enemies behind and in front of you. It can be quite hard to sort of aim where you want to get to and attack the enemy that you want. But, these are just minor gripes, and they've always been there because, as I said, this is a game from the PlayStation 2 era, so it doesn't have the modern controls. Like, it hasn't been redone. It's basically just a straight-up port, with a nice coat of polish over it. It does, however, moving on to the sound department, have fantastic new music. The music is, absolutely great. Just great orchestral scores. I really, really enjoyed the music, and it really fits with the environment. Jumping back quickly to the gameplay, so I will say that the game is still brutally difficult, but there is an easy mode there. For people who just want to go through the game again, who don't really, want to have to pull their hair out, and just want to have a nice breeze through a game that they remember, or if you find it too challenging, you can always do that. And it's got light leveling up of your swords and abilities. And when I say abilities, it's one ability per sword. And those allow you to access different areas and stuff like that. I wouldn't say it's like Metroidvania. There is backtracking of, okay, I've got this, I've got to go back. However, you pretty much are forced to go to all these places anyway. There's only a few places that you might miss with a couple of little power-ups, but you are pretty much forced to go back. Like, oh, there's a door I can't access. You're going to go back eventually. So, yeah, actually, I guess it is kind of Metroidvania in that sense. And I really dig those sort of games. And I really love games like Resident Evil and Devil May Cry. And I love all the Onimusha series. However, I didn't play the second one. I only did the first, third, and fourth. I don't know why I missed the second, but hopefully they remaster that. But yeah, I love the gameplay. It's fun, it's fast, it's dangerous in terms of difficulty, and it makes you focus. And it's not overly frustrating every time you get hit. It's your fault. Sometimes there is those little bits where characters swarm you, and your character doesn't move how you would like. But yeah, as I said, you get used to those controls, so. I just think it feels great. So let's jump on to, sound, again, fantastic. Voice acting, cheesy as hell. But that's the games back then. We didn't really, apart from Metal Gear Solid, we didn't really have many fantastic voice acted games. So what have we got next? We've done sound, we've done graphics, we've done gameplay, we've done the concept. So for the awesomeness factor, this is where it falls flat. This is literally just a straight up port. There is no extra features, no extra modes, nothing extra. It's literally like I've put the disc into the PlayStation 2 and booted it up, and it looks slightly better on a newer TV. That's about it. I guess the benefit is being able to play it portable, which is a big benefit for me. As I said, it's not a very long game. The difficulty helps make it longer. However, if you play it on the easy mode, you can easily clear it in a couple of hours. I think just taking my time, casually going through it on the easy mode, I did it in about 3 hours 40 or something, 3.5 hours, something like that. And that was taking my time. Looking for every little collectible and all that sort of stuff. And you basically can unlock another costume or two when you finish the game to restart with. So not really much replay value there. I would have liked to have seen some sort of, like that Capcom have done with Mega Man collections and with the Street Fighter collections, just have some artwork or something like that, like a cool bonus menu of stuff. Just yeah, kind of a bland, straight up port. But because I love this game and I love this series, I kind of forgive it for that. But, I will mark it down, I guess, for that. So, for the scores, overall, if you've never played this game, I highly recommend it. And at the price point it's coming out at, I think it's definitely a steal. It's not coming out at like the $70, standard price point or $80, which is great. And it's great for portable, save often, just play a bit of a chunk of it, jump back in. Yeah, I really think if you've never played it, definitely give it a go, especially if you're a fan of action games. And I'm hoping that, as I said earlier, they bring the rest of the Onimusha games out. So go out and buy it so that they are inclined to do that. So score-wise, I would give it concept, maybe 3.5 out of 5. I mean, it's nothing fantastic, but, it's fun. It gets the job done. Graphically, I'm going to have to give it a 3 out of 5 because it looked great back then, and I think it still looks cool. I like the environments, I like the characters and all that, but it's not getting the 4 or the 5 out of 5 rating because it hasn't done anything to warrant that. It's pretty much a straight port that's a little bit more cleaner. Gameplay, I'm going to give... I'm going to give 4 out of 5. I would give it more, but, people playing it now, having those dated controls, it might feel a bit too stiff and too, they probably won't be used to it. So I feel like there could have been more done to sort of improve those controls for basically the modern generation of players. But overall, the gameplay is still fantastic. That's why it's getting a high score regardless. Sound, I'm giving that a 5 out of 5. The sound is fantastic. Actually, I take that back. But we're gonna go 4.5, only because that voice acting, I've got to mention it's cheesy, so I've got to drop it that little bit. But the music is so good, I'm giving that a high score. Now, awesomeness, I'm only going to give a 2.5 out of 5 because it's average. They haven't really done anything new. However, being able to play it on the Switch just automatically gives it a good score for that. Because yeah, it's a great game to play portably. And it's a great game to re-release because it hasn't been around for many years. We're used to having Xbox 360 and PS3 remasters. And on a Switch, we're used to having even Wii U remasters. So to go back a couple of generations, it's really nice to have those games coming back, and they really fit on the Switch, having that smaller display. I think they really look good on there. So that's me babbling on about Onimusha Warlords. So if you've not played it before, definitely I would highly recommend it. As I said, these scores, they might be a bit lower because I'm reviewing them as of today, in this modern era. Whereas back then I would have gave it, high scores. But regardless of the score, the game is still a blast to play, and I definitely recommend it for everyone. Alrighty, thanks guys for listening, and bye! P.S. Also, check us out on www.gamebug.com.au. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook. You're obviously on our YouTube. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that stuff, and it keeps helping us out. Thanks. Bye.